Of Zebulon Board of Adjustments meeting September 19th, 2019 to order. A quick explanation, we typically seat 5 Board of Adjustments members. The minimum is 4, and the question was whether or not we needed an ETJ member to sit on the board, and it was researched and decided it's not required. However, we still will need a simple majority vote tonight, so 3 out of 4 on a motion will pass. So I just want to make that clarification. If the board would look at the agenda in your packet for tonight's meeting, I'd like to add 2 things under old business to the agenda. The first is an update from staff on the 114 Lee Street case, and also a follow-up on the Wedgewood plantings that came up at our recent work session. With those 2 additions, do I hear a move to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, the agenda is accepted with the addition of the 2 old business items. Also in your package, I have the minutes from the November 16th, 2017 meeting, which was the Lee Street property. Are there any questions on the minutes? I know 2 board members were not here for that meeting, just, I believe, Tad and I.
My only question was to you, and that was, what was the resolution of the decision that we made, if anything had progressed further?
Yeah, we should get a staff report on that tonight on the old business.
Yeah, so that was all.
Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Motion to accept the minutes as presented.
All right, any discussion? I hear a second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes as presented in the packet are accepted. Also at this point in time, we'll declare the meeting open for AP 2019-01. I do have a little statement I'd like to read before the hearing actually opens, and that is that the Board of Adjustments has a responsibility to hear and decide appeals from the decision or order of the administrator charged with enforcing the zoning ordinance appeals, and they generally fall into 2 categories. The first are appeals which are based upon a disagreement as to the interpretation of a particular provision of the ordinance, or number 2, appeals in which the applicant is asking for relief, sometimes called a variance, from the application of a particular provision to this property. In regard to number 1, or the first interpretation, this board is limited to finding the true meaning or intent of the ordinance provision. The board cannot change the actual meaning or bend it to fit a particular situation. It can only find what in its opinion is the true meaning, and in doing so, either uphold or correct the administrator's interpretation. In regard to the second authority, or a variance, the board may vary the terms of the ordinance, but only where practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships would result from carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. In granting variances, the board must make specific findings and conclusions as required by law to support its decision. For example, the hardship must relate to the property and not to the applicant's personal situation, and hardship cannot be a result of the applicant's own actions. As I stated earlier, any action by the board this evening will be a simple majority, which would be 3 out of 4. I am sure that each member of this board would personally like to assist each applicant with his or her problem, but the board is bound by its limited powers and duties as its legal responsibilities. Any appeal from the decision of the board tonight must be made to Superior Court and must be effected within 30 days after the board's decision. At this point in time, if we could swear in the staff.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Meade Bradshaw, Town of Zebulon Planning Staff.
Okay, Meade, a couple quick questions for you. Is this hearing being held no longer than 60 days after receipt of the petition?
Correct? Yes.
That notice of the time and place of the hearing was given by first-class mail to petitioners and property owners at least 20 days prior to this hearing?
Yes.
That notices were placed in and around the property as deemed appropriate at least 7 days prior to this hearing?
Yes.
and that a general circulation newspaper was notified twice of the date, time, and place of this hearing in time for publication prior to this hearing.
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. You may present.
Okay, I would like to present the PowerPoint presentation, the agenda packet into evidence, as well as the notice of publication within the Wake Weekly newspaper, as well as the letters we sent to the property owners. All property owners within 150 feet were mailed a letter announcing the date and time of the Board of Adjustment meeting.
And we'll accept the packet as was presented.
All right, good evening, members of the Board of Adjustment. The case before you today is AP 2019-1. The site data, the appellant is Bill Perry, the applicant's attorney is Andy Gay, the property owner is Perry Land and Investments Incorporated. The site address is 324 Perry Curtis Road. The PIN number's on the screen. The acreage is 2.75 acres, and the current use of the property is operating a business, including the storing of vehicles related to the business, and that's staff's interpretation of what the use is on the property. The existing zoning is residential 20. This is an aerial photo of the property highlighted in yellow, located on Perry Curtis Road, just east of the intersection with South Arundel. As you can see, there have been some improvements to the property. The adjacent property, the properties to the north are residential agricultural uses, as well as the properties to the south and to the adjacent west. And there's a single-family residence to the adjacent east. This is a zoning map. As you can see, all properties surrounding the subject parcel are residential 20. This is a list of all the permitted uses in the residential 20 zoning district. These are uses that are allowed in the residential 20 zoning district, but would require a special use permit. The difference between permitted uses versus uses with a special use permit is any use with a special use permit would require approval of the Board of Commissioners to be allowed on the property. And this is more uses that would require a special use permit in the residential 20 zoning district. This is some site history. You have aerial photo of the year 2013 on the left and an aerial photo of the property in 2017. Actually, in 2013, this parcel wasn't created, so this area right here would have been included into the larger parcel to the adjacent east and south. As you can see, that the way the property was mowed or cared for went north and south, and you can see it goes from the parent tract all the way to where these dilapidated buildings are that front on Perry Curtis Road. Then if you look at the aerial in 2017, this is after this parcel was created, and you can see that the way the property was cared for was even cared for in the opposite direction, going more east to west. And you don't see any of the lines within the subject property. This is a boundary survey from 2015. This larger parcel is roughly 30 acres. It has frontage on Perry Curtis Road and then has some frontage on South Arundel. And the area in question would be in this location right here. So as you can see, it's part of this parent tract. This is a zoomed in photo of the minor subdivision that was recorded in 2016, carving out the 2.75 acres. This is a picture looking west on Perry Curtis Road, showing the posted sign. This is a photo of one of the sections of the code which the property received the notice of violation, and that would have been section 152.032. The town nor Wake County has any records of these buildings receiving permits. This is the parking area on the property. As you can see, the majority of the parcel is a gravel parking lot for the storage of some of these vehicles. You can see that a lot of the vehicles are related to construction. This is just another photo of the two permitted buildings that are constructed on site that did not receive permits. And this is a zoomed in photo. You can see more construction related equipment on the property. This is a photo looking at the fuel tanks on site where the vehicles were being refueled. This is a sign which is another reason that the notice of violation was issued. In Code Section 152.257, the sign was posted without a permit. And the sign's displaying Dixon paving. This sign has since been removed. This is another Dixon paving sign. This is on South Arundel Avenue. And this sign has also been removed. This is a picture of an adjacent single-family residence to the adjacent east. This is a single-family residence to the adjacent west owned by the Perrys. This is another single-family residence further west on Perry Curtis Road owned by the Perrys. These are parcels located across Perry Curtis Road north of the site. As you can see, agricultural uses and single-family residences on the site. And this was the appeal letter submitted by Mr. Gay's firm stating that the North Carolina farms are exempt from any zoning regulation. And that section is that's general statute is 160A.323.2. These are general statutes explaining the farm exemption, General Statute 153A-340B. No such zoning regulation shall affect bona fide farms, but any use of such property for non-farm purposes shall be subject to the regulations. Another general statute is 160A-360. This was amended to exclude land from being used for farm purposes from municipal extraterritorial jurisdictions, also known as the ETJ. Farming in the ETJ is not subject to city zoning, or other municipal development regulations. These are activities that would be considered bona fide farms. This is attachment 11 in your packet. This is an excerpt from the Coates Canyons blog. These several list of activities would be considered farming activities. The first is production and harvesting of crops, including fruits, vegetables, sod, flowers, and ornamental plants. The second, planting and production of trees and timber. The third, dairy and the raising, management, care, and training of livestock, including horses, bees, poultry, and other animals. The fourth is aquaculture. The fifth, operation and maintenance of farm, land, structures, and buildings. 6, marketing and selling of agricultural products, agritourism, the storage and use of the agricultural purposes, packing, treating, processing, sorting, storage, and other activities that add value to agricultural items produced on the farm and on any other farm owned or leased by the bona fide farm operator. And the seventh and final is public or private grain warehouses. There is also limited additional exemption for the production of modest amount of non-farm products identified under the Goodness Grows in North Carolina program if it is done on a farm subject to a conservation easement. And this is a timeline of events. In January 26th of 2018, a citizen called town staff to complain about the starting of vehicles early in the morning. On February 1st, 2018, a code enforcement officer had a conversation with the citizen. March 13th through April 22nd and March 24th, those were 3 visits that town staff went out to site and could not find any evidence of any construction-related equipment on the property. January 2019, an appraiser called the code enforcement officer to get some information on the property. This led to a meeting on January 10th with myself, the code enforcement officer, Davita Moore, and the fire chief, Chris Perry, met with Mr. and Mrs. Perry to talk about the use on the property and what violations had occurred on site. This led up to another meeting with myself and Mr. Perry in January of 2019, directing him to file a zoning map amendment and a special use permit. The zoning map amendment would rezone the property to a use that staff felt, if approved, would be a permitted use within the zoning district. And then the special use permit was submitted to allow the storage of the fuel on site. February 11th, 2019, that's when both applications, the zoning map amendment and the special use permit, were filed with the town of Zebulon. February 15th, the town mailed the notice of violation to 324 Perry Curtis Road to provide a written record of the notice of violations on the property. March 29th, 2019, there was an email from Mr. Perry requesting to remove his case from the April joint public hearing to the May public hearing. On May 4th, the town mailed letters letting all the property owners within 150 feet know that this meeting was going to be moved to the May joint public hearing. On May 3rd, 2019, I had a conversation with Mr. Perry, and he felt he was exempt from zoning because the property was a farm use. And then on May 31st, 2019, the town received a letter from Gay, Jackson, and McNally, LLP, appealing the notice of violation that the property was exempt from zoning because the property is a farm use. Staff's interpretation is that the subject property, the 2.75 acres, has been subdivided from the 30-acre farm property. The use on the property is an office with a parking area for the storage of construction vehicles. An office and the storage of construction vehicles are not permitted uses in the residential 20 zoning district. Staff's interpretation is the use on the subject property is not a farm, and farm activities listed above in the Coates Canyon blog are none of the uses being used as the primary use on the subject property. And that concludes the staff report. I'm available for any questions.
The board have any questions of staff? Does the applicant have any questions of the staff at this time? Could I swear you in? That way we'll get you sworn in and we'll have that out of the way.
Yes, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Andy Gay. I'm an attorney here in Zebulon, and I am representing the appellant, Bill Perry, who is the sole shareholder of the corporate entity that owns the property. You want to join me up here and we'll ask each other questions? It's always been a little bit of a problem. How do y'all want us to do it up here?
Maybe to help with the microphone, you two can sit here.
Okay. Or why don't I let him sit?
Yeah, we'll let Mead sit here, and you can have the podium. And you can make your presentation, and also if you have any counter questions or rebuttal for staff.
These are just some questions, briefly at the outset. The issue of whether or not it was a bona fide farm, was that ever discussed with Mr. Perry when it was suggested that he file a zoning map amendment?
It was not.
Okay. So once basically Mr. Perry withdrew that and then chose to proceed under the general statute concerning cities not being able to legislate zoning for bona fide farms. Is that a fair statement? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, it is true that Wake County, there is no zoning classification for a farm, is there?
The Code of Ordinances does not have farm as a defined use in our ordinance.
Okay. And you may or may not know this, but it is true, or you would not disagree, I would hope, that basically everything was originally, before zoning, everything was a farm, pretty much, and that the zoning code reflected residential 30 or 20, generally in the county areas.
That's what the zoning is on currently, yes.
Right. And so the idea is that farmland was zoned residential, but it was not excluded from being a farm. No one made a decision, for instance, prior to Zebulon having an ETJ that far out, no one made a decision in the town of Zebulon what your zoning was going to be. It was just merely adopted what the county's was. Correct? And then
I'm not positive what
yeah,
the county zoning
that's
was.
a fair statement. Would you agree that as municipalities grew, that they did begin zoning their ETJs?
That's correct.
Okay. And there is no classification in the town of Zebulon's Code of Ordinance for farm.
Correct.
You would agree that a bona fide farm, though, is exempt from municipal zoning?
Yes.
Okay. That was just a legal clarification, perhaps, for the record. And that would be all of my questions.
Okay, you may go ahead and proceed with do you have a presentation as well, or do you have any questions back, Mead? Or the board?
I do not. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, does the board have any questions?
I have no questions.
At this point, no? All right,
Okay.
we'll let you proceed with your presentation.
All right. Probably if we just swear them all in at one time, maybe?
Because we're taping everything, we have to do it one at a time, so we have it on the record.
Okay.
So you can bring them up one at a time, we'll swear them in, and
Yeah. I would ask that Mr. Billy Wayne Perry, his son, his wife, and Mr. Gerald Lanier at least come forward to the front and bring their exhibits. No, just on the front row, sit down. Please. we would like to call as our first witness, Mr. Bill Perry. Now, with some liberality, I would like to examine him, not standing right next to him if I could.
Okay, that'd be fine. We'll have Lisa swear him in.
Is this okay? If you'll just stay there, pay attention to this young lady.
Just swear you in.
Okay.
Raise your hand, please.
Left hand.
There you go, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
State your name and address, please.
Billy Wayne Perry Jr., 224 Perry Curtis Road, Zebulon, North Carolina.
I may approach the witness. Mr. Perry, you're going to have to speak up.
Oh.
They got to hear you. They're tape recording
Okay.
this. You're kind of soft-spoken.
Can you hear me? Did you hear that?
Thank you.
All right.
Now, Mr. Perry, you've identified yourself for the Board of Adjustments. The address that you related to them as your address, is that on this farm?
Yes.
Okay. How long has this farm been in your family?
I reckon at least 100 years.
Okay. Now, there came a time where you needed to borrow some money, didn't you?
Yep.
And what did you do?
On this particular tract, the 2.7 acres, is that what you're talking about, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, did
Yeah,
you
basically.
carve that out so you could get a loan from the bank?
Yeah, basically, just carved it out to get a loan. It's used for collateral.
Okay. And how large was your farm? Well, let me ask you this. Would you agree with me that your total farm acreage is somewhere in excess of 35 acres?
Yes.
Okay. And you carved out this parcel and pledged it to a bank?
Yes.
Okay. But it's still part of your farm?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Who owns it?
I own it.
But what's the legal name that owns it?
Perry Land and Investment.
Perry Land and Investments, Inc.?
Correct.
Okay. And other than the collateral, was there any other reason to carve this out?
Not really.
Okay. Your personal residence is there?
Yep.
Your father's personal residence is there?
Yep.
And you didn't want the loan against those things?
No, it'd be silly for me to put the whole farm up for a small loan.
Okay. In any event, are you prepared, if this board requires, to deed it back from, as this tract, back to Perry Land Investments again in the whole original tract, if need be?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. And in fact, I have asked you to sign a deed to that effect, have I not?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I want to, and the exhibits unfortunately are flowing out of order, but if I may approach the witness.
Yes, you may.
I hand you what's been marked as plaintiff's exhibit number 6 and ask you if you recognize it.
Yes.
And what is that?
General warranty deed.
And is it dated today?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your intentions, if required, to avoid this controversy that has arisen about whether or not this is a farm out there, that you would simply deed it back to Perry Land Investment?
Absolutely.
And just, it would all be the same?
It'd be the same piece of property, yeah.
If I know you have marked this plaintiff's exhibit 6. I've got copies, if you don't mind, if I share with all of your lawyers.
That is marked Exhibit C?
Exhibit 6.
6, okay.
I have copies for each of y'all, so you don't have to wait for that.
Sir?
Circulated and reviewed. How long How long has this been a family farm?
At least 100 years, right, Daddy?
Okay.
This whole,
Well, you'll get your turn if you want to, but right now, he's on the witness stand.
to my knowledge, 100 years.
Okay. I want to approach the witness again, hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2, and ask you if you recognize that. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Is it a overhead map from the U.S. Department of Agriculture indicating that your farm 6497, tract 62504, for program year 2019, reflects, included in that, all of this tract of land, the Perry tract of land, including what you carved out for a loan 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's all included, yeah.
I would move those in.
Okay, we have Exhibit 2, which is a tract map.
Now, does that indicate that there's, tell us what it indicates about the total crop land there? Does it say
Well-
21.79 acres crop land?
Yeah.
So that's your open pasture?
Oh, yes, that's right. I see it now.
Your soybeans?
Yeah.
Okay, does not include any of the timberland
Right.
or down in, on down 96 Highway?
That's correct.
Okay. In fact, the tract actually extends across 96 Highway, does it not?
That's correct.
Okay. Did I move 2 into evidence? I believe I did.
Yes.
Okay. I hand you what will be marked Plaintiff's Exhibit number 3. Actually, it should be styled Appellant Petitioner's Exhibit number 3, and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and if you'll tell this honorable board what that is.
Basically, details that Gary Creech, how much soybeans he's got on the property. How many acres he's planting, been planting.
It's always soybeans.
That's right, soybeans, yes.
Move that in. Courthouse, we have a very steady hand bailiff that does this. Usually young.
Have Exhibit 3 accepted, which is a report of commodities, farm, and tract detail listing.
I believe it indicates that this tract is 46 acres in size. Top right-hand corner, with 21 acres, 0.79 of crop land. Is that correct?
That's what it says.
Okay. Now, the dilapidated buildings that was referred to in the opening presentation, are they known around here as bulk barns?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Tobacco was on the way out when you were coming along.
Right.
And it was no longer profitable to continue to raise tobacco.
The pack houses was a part of that too. Which
Okay.
was already there.
But when you were doing that, may I stand?
Yes.
When you were doing that farming, did you have fuel out there? Did you store fuel?
Absolutely.
Did you have any tractors,
Yes, sir.
backhoes?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any dump trucks,
Yeah, big trucks. Yeah, dump trucks, yeah.
grain trucks?
Grain trucks, yeah.
What kind of noise those buck barns running all night make?
Yep, keep you awake if you listen to them, or put you to sleep one or two.
Okay. And Mr. Creech had to sign off on the fact that this is a farm and that it was, these acreage reports were correct, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, you're making improvements to this farm at this time concerning pastures, digging water holes,
That's right.
rotating cows in and out of there.
Right.
The paving company that you have, is this a place where the paving company, the employees come and meet?
Yes.
And is it where you, from time to time, will have tractor trailers,
Yes.
backhoes?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
How often are those pieces of equipment that you use out on a paving job, how often are they actually on these premises?
You mean the paving equipment?
Yeah.
I would say, it depends, but I'd say, 50% of the time.
Okay. And when the paving equipment is there, is it running, is it making any noise?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you store any asphalt out there, or do you process anything?
No, sir.
Okay. You're farming on the highways now, grading, as opposed to farming, okay. But back when you were farming, did you have to go to another farm and take your equipment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it didn't stay there all the time then, either, did it?
No.
Okay. But there is no processing, there is no bulk storage of asphalt, no bulk storage of gravel. That's not what you do. This is just simply, and I believe that's your home office, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And a home office is a permitted use in R20, is it not?
Correct.
Okay. So you wanted it to look nice, right?
We didn't have nowhere to stage the work on the farm. So you don't get in the middle of the tobacco field and start storing tractors in the middle of the tobacco field
Understood.
or a cow pasture. So
But you
had-
got rid of the buck barn.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You cleaned it up,
Right.
made it look nice,
Yes.
put some nice fences up.
Correct.
Okay. And those fences just don't fence in this alleged less than 3 acre tract.
All the way down 96 Highway.
Okay. So the whole farm is fenced in
Yes.
consistently.
Right.
Okay. Now, directing your attention to your neighbors.
Yes.
They operate a construction company next to you, don't they?
Yes, I do.
Don't you have a picture of that?
I believe we do.
People that complain.
Right.
And you want to spend marked for purposes of identification, plaintiff's exhibit 5D. Plaintiff's exhibit 5 and its subparts. 5E. And I want you to hold these up and ask me if you recognize these.
Okay. Independently.
Yeah, let's see if we can find where we're supposed to start.
Okay.
Could you pass those exhibits out so we could be seeing them as you're talking about them?
I didn't get those copies.
Okay.
They were too expensive, so.
Okay.
I decided to streamline a little bit here.
Which one you want first?
All right. we're gonna start with, well, let's do this.
Okay.
Let's start.
Okay.
I hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 5 and its subparts. Do you recognize Plaintiff's Exhibit 5?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
It's the entranceway to my farmyard.
Okay. Any objection? No. Okay. Then without objection, I would move Plaintiff's 5 into evidence, and it asks that it be passed to the Board of Justice. Now, I also hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's 5A and ask if you know what that is.
Yep. There used to be an old pack house right here. Can't hear you. This used to be an old pack house right here. This barn has been here for at least 100 years, and we fixed it up.
Okay, let me, B, you recognize that?
Yep.
Okay, and is that basically your soybean field and your fencing?
Correct.
Okay. And you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 5C and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
And what is it?
Entranceway to my house and back of my daddy's house, and
I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Please speak into the mic.
it is the entranceway of my daddy's house, and my house and the back of my daddy's house there.
Same fencing?
Yeah, same fencing.
farm.
Same farm, yep.
You would, absent objection, 5C into evidence and ask that it be published to the honorable. You actually. You want to go with the rest of yours first.
Okay.
E, 5E.
I don't see any more.
Okay, so,
D.
all right. Madam Clerk, was 5C the last one?
Yes.
Thank you. I hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 5D, and I ask you if you recognize that.
Yep, that's neighbor's property.
Okay, and who asked that? And is the neighbor the person that was named as the adjoining property owner?
Yes.
Okay. And I hand you E, F.
There's E.
Yeah, that's E2, sorry, we'll change it. I hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 5.
F, that's it.
5E and ask you if you recognize that.
That's the adjoining property, neighbor's property.
From,
Please speak into the microphone.
This is the neighbor's property that adjoins my,
is this photograph actually taken from your property?
yes.
Okay. Would you describe what you see in that photograph?
I see some buildings, storage buildings, a contractor's trailer with some ladders and a boat.
Okay.
It's like a shop building.
Okay. I would move 5E to evidence. attention to the next exhibit, 5F. Do you recognize that?
Yep, adjoining property, it's an old house been falling down.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Old house falling down, adjacent property.
I would move that into evidence. And I'm asking you, I hand you what's been marked for identification, Plains Exhibit 5G, and ask you if you recognize that.
Yep. Neighbor's property, looks like a shop building, workshop, contractor's trailer, ladders, and a boat.
Okay? Move that 5G be introduced into evidence and published to the jury. Now,
Let me just make a note to the record. We have Exhibit 5, subparts A through G, which represent property photos, soybean fields, buildings, and the neighbor's property.
I hand you what will be marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 1 and ask you if you will identify this as the same document that the respondent town cited concerning the agricultural uses and zoning.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And I have circled a portion in there under cities and towns. Will you read that?
Cities can regulate agricultural operations through zoning within their corporate limits, but may not do so in their extraterritorial jurisdiction. Cities also frequently have restrictions on keeping animals within the corporate limits.
Now, Zebulon has not got as sophisticated as Carrie yet. We don't have chickens, do we? Move that and introduce it to evidence. Bet you weren't aware that Zebulon used to have an ordinance you couldn't shoot buffalo from the train, though.
I've never heard of that. I don't doubt it.
Okay. Now, these improvements you made to the property, you assumed it was okay, it was on a farm.
It's a farm. I had been told by people within the city, as a matter of fact, that I could do it without a permit because it was a farm.
Okay.
Not these people here, but previous.
Okay. In any event, when you were farming, and your daddy and your granddaddy, y'all had tractors,
Yes.
trucks,
Yes, sir.
barns,
Correct?
sheds,
Yes.
farm office.
Right.
I mean, your laborers didn't come in your house and you pay them, did they?
That's right. Exactly.
You had employees.
Yes, sir.
You had gas for your tractors.
Yes, sir.
You had diesel for your trucks and your tractors.
Yes, sir.
Your combines.
Yes, sir.
Tell the kind people here what a combine is, what size it is, and if it's wider or larger than some of the trucks and things you have there now.
Oh, yeah, I think we all, if you live around the country, you know a combine's something you have to get off the road when it's coming down the road. You pick corn and soybeans and which we still have the combine cut our soybeans, it has been for years. But it ain't, it's probably bigger than any piece of equipment we've got in the yard. And in fact, I'm sure it is.
Okay. Did you have any junk out there on that farm?
Junk?
Well, let me rephrase that. Have you ever seen a farm that have some junk on it?
Yes.
You have?
Well, junk?
Well,
Well, not junk, but.
I understand. Did y'all fix your tires and all when it went flat?
Right.
Just keep oil and
Yes.
all that on hand so you could put it in your tractors and your trucks and your,
That's the only way to do it.
okay. And you did some carpenter work from time to time, didn't you?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And how about, did you have to process that tobacco?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you took it from a seed about that big and you turned it into something that the companies, when you hauled it to them with your trucks,
Right.
how much a sheet of tobacco weigh?
200 pounds.
Well, you couldn't have one over 200, could you?
That's right.
How many people put in a barn of tobacco?
I know we had 10 out there a lot of times or more.
Okay. How many at the barns?
Oh, we 16, 18, 20.
Okay. So it's always been a farm.
Oh, yes.
It's always had the activities of a farm.
Right.
Now, the wintertime, what did you farmers do? Did you do any carpenter work?
Absolutely.
Did you do any maintenance on your vehicles?
Yes.
Did you go out and get another job doing something when you couldn't farm?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. And did sometimes you use your equipment to do those jobs?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If your neighbor needed something with a backhoe or your blade or one of your tractors, did you go down the road with it and go do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, why did you petition to zone the zoning map to start off with?
Thought that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Did you have anyone to advise you at that time?
No, sir.
But you've since withdrawn that petition.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else, this is a dangerous question. Is there anything else you would like the Board of Adjustments to know concerning what you do on your farm, who's living there, that type of thing? That you think they need to know that I may not have asked?
Only thing I can tell you is that,
Got to speak up, sir.
only thing I can clarify is that that's been a barnyard all my life. I walked in that barnyard since I was 5 years old. The very same barnyard. You cannot have a 40-acre farm, regardless of what's parked out there. You can't have a farm and say you're going to put a yard to keep the trucks and machines in the middle of a cow pasture. You can't put it in the middle of a tobacco field or a bean field. Every farm that is a substantial size farm has a barnyard.
Okay. Now, do you know the people that were listed and notified to be here that may have an interest in whether or not you'd be allowed to continue with this farming operation?
Would have interest?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, the record reflects that Gary Creech,
Right.
Mr. Creech, got his tractors across the road, doesn't
Yes, sir.
he? Has he got a shop?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You ever seen the excavator over there?
I've seen the excavator and backhoe, dump truck.
And he's got a shop and an office.
Yeah, yes,
Okay. And the old house that was in the picture in front of Mr. Creech's residence.
yeah.
Okay. What is that old house used for?
Right now, nobody lives in it, but people used to help on the farm, used to stay there.
Okay. So it's just now kind of like what your farm.
Right.
Okay. The neighbors to your east, I believe, were named as being notified. Is that the people's property that you're talking about, that we showed the work trailer and the ladders and the
Yes, sir.
shop and the buildings all run down and vines and all this kind of stuff?
Yes.
You hadn't complained about them, have you?
No, sir.
Do you see them here tonight?
Yep. Right over here in the back corner.
All right. Have you asked them not to, do they farm? Do they have a farm?
Not that I'm aware of, nope.
How in the world are they doing all the things they're doing on their property, and it's not even a farm?
That's a very, very good question.
Yes, Sam?
The objection would be it's just speculation as to what they do on their farm, how they do things on their farm. It was
I'll
a
rephrase.
complete hypothetical.
Yeah. They don't have a farm, do they?
No, they don't.
They're not exempt from zoning regulations, are they?
No, sir.
But they complained to you,
Correct.
or complained about your farm.
Right.
I believe that's all my questions of this witness at this time.
Okay, for the record, we'll accept Exhibit 1, which is David Owens, UNC School of Government, Agricultural Uses and Zoning verbiage. And does the board have any questions for the witness?
Is Dixon Paving one of your businesses, Bill, or is it someone that is renting space from you?
Well,
Or
it's
leasing.
It's not a rented space. It's my wife's business, technically. Okay. I hadn't set foot on a paving job in 5 years. It's a minority company. She's a woman.
Okay.
And I can't be on the company, otherwise it wouldn't be a minority.
But, I mean, basically, it's family related.
That was my wife.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's my wife.
Okay,
And,
congratulations.
Yeah, a quick question on the loan. If I heard you correctly, you took out a collateral loan on the 2.75 acres to develop the 2.75, or what was the nature of the loan?
it was just a loan where I think we were going to buy some machines or something like that. It wasn't anything. We've not borrowed any money to develop anything on the property.
Okay, was it classified an agriculture or farm loan, or was it a commercial business loan? I mean, all loans are classified.
Basically just a business loan. I think
was-
it was an equipment loan.
Okay, that was the equipment and the land served as the collateral.
Exactly, that's
Okay.
right. Yep.
Does Counsel Sam, do you have any
Yes.
questions?
Thank you. Mr. Perry, my name is Sam Slater. I represent the town of Zebulon. Just a few questions based on the testimony you just offered.
Yes, sir.
I want to start by focusing on Plaintiff's Exhibit 6. This was the North Carolina General Warranty Deed dated today, purporting to be a deed from grantor Perry Land and Investments to grantee Inc., to grantee Perry Land and Investments, Inc. You're not aware of the legal ramifications of a property transfer when it comes to a recombination of the property transfer, are you?
Legal ramifications?
I'll ask it differently. If you owned a home right where you are and you bought your neighbor's house, you're aware that you buying your neighbor's house does not result in that being one parcel, correct?
Yes, I understand that.
It remains two separate parcels.
Yeah, but this is not the same situation.
Well, I understand, sir, but you're aware that Perry Land and Investments, Inc. can own one parcel, correct?
Can own one parcel?
Can it own a single parcel of land?
It can. It can own.
Can it own two parcels of land?
Yes,
Can it own 10 parcels of land?
correct, yes.
Okay. You were present for the presentation, the staff report. You mentioned that you carved out the property to secure a loan. You're also aware that the use of that property changed significantly during the same time frame, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Can we bring up on the video board the aerial from 2013 to 2017, please? So it's your testimony, sir, that in 2013, the parcel had not been carved out of the farm, is that correct?
Yeah,
And you see up there that you see field effectively running to the barn that is near the road. Do you see that, sir?
absolutely.
And then if you look at the picture on the right, 2017, is it your testimony that the picture on the right in 2017 is the same as the picture on the left in 2013?
Let me tell you what the same is. The land is the same. When we drove around, this picture don't show everything because in the wintertime, on the left picture, 2013, we're running through mud where we're tearing up the land. So we simply go in and add ABC stone so that we don't get stuck out there in the yard. So the same thing was going on before as it was then. There was just some improvements. So to let you be crystal clear that the same thing was going on in 13 as it is in 17, okay?
I understand.
Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine, Mr.
Good.
Perry.
I'm
Thank
glad.
you. You're loud and clear, sir.
I'm glad.
Thank you. I want to turn to the zoning map, the application for a zoning map amendment. I think it's an exhibit in the staff report. I have it at attachment 13 to the staff report. If you can share that with Mr. Perry, please. This was admitted previously, as was this photo here.
What is this going to say?
This is just the zoning map amendment you filled out.
Yeah. Okay, what's the question?
What page?
Several questions, Mr. Perry. Part one, I'm going to start at part one, applicant agent information. It says name of applicant, Bill Perry. Is that you, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Part two, description, and actually, I want to clarify,
I see Connor Chase, but anyway.
this is, if you turn to the page in front of that, it says a certain date that it was received. I see 2/11/19, so.
Okay, cool.
So this document was either, well, do you agree this document was received by the town of Zebulon on 2/11/19?
Yeah.
And did you prepare this document, sir?
No, I didn't. My wife did, I think.
Okay, your wife prepared it. Okay. I want to look at part two, description of request property. It says proposed zoning of the property. You see there it says heavy business, sir? And that was at the time of February?
Yep.
You wanted the property to be zoned heavy business?
No, I didn't want to have heavy business. They were pushing me into that direction.
Okay. The next question is
Who is they?
Meade and his, whoever the town guy
You can
was.
ask the questions when I'm finished, sir.
I just wanted clarification.
Okay. The existing use of the property,
They were trying to trap me.
no, I'm just asking you questions, sir.
I'm just letting you know.
The existing use of the property, Mr. Perry, it says farming and paving company. You see that?
Yep.
And so at least as of February 2019, you recognize that there was some farming there, some farming activity there, and some paving company activity there. Isn't that correct, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. If you look on the next page, required findings of fact, there's some findings. Question one, this is a description of the property that's being discussed tonight. It says, good location to provide local on-call paving DOT work, NCDOT highway maintenance. Is that what it says there, sir?
Yep.
Okay, and further down, why is this site appropriate? It says Dixon Paving is an NCDOT-approved certified heavy highway contractor, prime, asphalt and paving, milling and concrete, located in Wake County. Great location. Is that what that says, sir?
Yep.
Okay. Finally, at the bottom, number 6, speaking about the property, you're describing the property that you're here on today, sir, and you describe it as 3 acres hyphen adjoining properties are larger. Do you see that, sir? Mm-hmm. And that's what that says there? Mm-hmm. And that's what you represented the town of Zebulon in February this year, sir, correct?
Yep.
Okay. That's all on that.
And I realized after the fact they were trying to trap me. That's why I hired Andy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
That's what it was.
Understand. I understand, sir. Thank you. I understand, sir.
Okay.
Are you finished?
I've got some more.
Go ahead.
I want to, this was in the staff report, but I want to circulate it. Yeah, I'll introduce this as Defendant's Exhibit 1. Up to you. I guess. Where do you think we are?
Appellee or respondent, I guess, either one.
Your stickers say plaintiffs.
I know, I had to clarify that.
That's ridiculous.
So, do you recognize this photo, sir?
Yes.
And what's this a photo of?
A sign with Dixon Paving.
Okay. We'll move to admit and publish this to the board, please.
No objection?
I'm going to call that Staff Exhibit 1,
I put town one.
or Town, that works, Town Exhibit.
And this is on the property that's the subject of the hearing tonight, correct? The sign is located on that property?
No, it's not. It's been gone.
Well, at the time, it was located on the property.
Yeah.
And you've since removed it. And it says, now hiring, I'm going to read, you tell me if anything's incorrect there, paving foreman, correct?
Yeah.
Asphalt paver operators, asphalt crewmen, heavy equipment operators, asphalt milling operators. Okay. No further questions on that document, sir. My last question. You spoke about your experience as a farmer. Have you ever heard of a paving farm or a pavement farm?
I have now.
Is your pavement farm the only farm that you know that is a pavement farm?
No, I know a lot of people that own farms and operate paving, utilities, and many other businesses. Yep.
How do you raise pavement?
I don't know. The same way you raise chickens, I reckon.
Okay.
That makes sense to you?
No further questions.
Good.
Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions? Okay, I have one question. You talked about you don't have any involvement in Dixon Paving because it is a minority-owned, operated business.
I didn't say I didn't have any involvement. I didn't say I didn't have any involvement.
No, you don't have any, you do have involvement or don't have involvement?
I do have involvement. I just said I hadn't been on a paving job in 5 years.
Okay, because I noticed, looking at this attachment 13, which was the zoning map amendment petition that we just talked about, that you actually have an email address of Bill at Dixon Paving and
Milling.
Milling.com.
I am a consultant for my wife,
Okay,
okay? But I'm not on the corporation, and I don't go out in the field and get on paving jobs.
okay. Any other questions of the board? If not, your next witness?
I guess we better call the wife up here to explain all this.
You better not call my daddy
If
up
you
here.
would come forward, be sworn. On the floor. It's on the floor.
Would you place your left hand on the Bible?
Is there a Bible?
Oh, I didn't see it. They had it hid.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
It's Tracy Dixon Perry. I live at 224 Perry Curtis Road, Zebulon, North Carolina.
Now, let's have order and be quiet while we have a testimony, okay? Tracy, go ahead.
May I proceed?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Tracy, are you married to Bill?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have y'all been married?
12 years.
Now, the paving advertisement on the signage, okay? Where do you do your paving?
So, just to clarify, I am a minority DOT contractor for the state of North Carolina and South Carolina, which means we work on roads. We don't work on farms. We work on DOT roads. We work on private roads. We work on secondary roads. We do commercial work as well, but that's where we work. We put asphalt on roads, not on the farm.
Now, on the farm, how much of this work is done on the farm?
Absolutely none.
So this is merely where you made improvements to your home office, which is a permitted use in this, correct?
Yes.
Where you allow, when the equipment is not in use, or sometimes the equipment comes home,
Yes.
okay? How often is the equipment home?
Rarely. Rarely.
You heard your husband say it was there 50% of the time.
Yes, if I had it my way, it would be gone 100% of the time, because otherwise I don't make money.
Okay. Now, the, any type of, do you have your home office there?
Yes.
Okay. And you wouldn't disagree with me that a home office is a permitted use in R20, would you?
No.
Okay. And you wouldn't, would you agree that the tract of land that y'all reside on is approximately, what did I say, 40 acres?
Yes.
Okay. And why did y'all carve out that section in 2000? I don't know when you did it for sure, the deed reference, I think about 8 years ago.
Yes.
Why was that done?
For banking purposes solely. For the company to actually buy equipment.
But it's under the same name as council used the parent tract.
Absolutely, Pearland
Things
Investments.
under,
Pearland Investments.
okay. How about your house?
That's under Dixon Land Investments.
Okay. So you got the,
Absolutely.
okay. But anyway, who owns the cropland?
Pearland Investments.
So basically, all you did was Pearland Investments carved out this collateral, and Pearland Investments mortgaged it.
Yes.
Okay. And this rigmarole about buying your neighbor's house, you can put it back in all Pearland Investments if you want to, can't you?
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing to keep you from doing it.
Absolutely not.
Would you expose your land, all of the rest of the land, to the same liability as you now have on just this parcel?
No. I mean,
So
right,
it's a common banking practice.
correct.
And just as it was recombined, it can be uncombined.
Correct,
Stroke of a pen.
correct,
It's already been done
correct.
today. And you're willing to file this deed if this board requires.
Absolutely.
Just to clarify the fact that this is all one tract, all one entity, but you didn't mortgage all of it, you just mortgaged this barnyard.
Correct.
Okay. In a given day, let's say, any given day, how many people, either employees, where do you meet your customers? Do they come to you?
No,
The state of North Carolina, DOT, they don't come out here to meet with you at your farm, do they?
absolutely not.
All right, you go meet with them.
Yes,
Okay. And do your employees come there every day and then go to their job sites?
no.
They know where they're working and they,
They go to the job site
Okay.
and they leave the job site. Majority of my men work out of town, so they go to a hotel and they go right back to the job site.
so on a given day, how many, what's the traffic like out there?
On the road I live in,
On the barnyard, so to speak.
on Perry Curtis Road,
The barnyard out there,
out there in the yard,
yeah.
all you'll see is a white lab. She's about 6 years old. And maybe my daughter or my father-in-law or my husband working on a tractor.
Okay.
You may see one other man and a girl that works for me in the office.
So not a
No,
huge amount of employees coming there and then driving to Statesville to run a paving machine.
no.
You heard your husband testify about how many people would be there when y'all were farming.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that many people there?
No, and if there is that many people there, we need to go out of business.
Why did you, council spend a bit of time asking about the petition to have it rezoned? Why did you petition to rezone it?
We were asked. I mean, we were contacted by the Meade, the planning department, because of the complaint that was called in. I think we were first contacted via phone, and then the letter was sent, and then that's how it got started.
Okay. So you were working with the town of Zebulon's planning department?
Correct.
Trying to come up with a way to
Correct.
resolve a complaint that had been.
Correct.
And did anybody ever tell you what the complaint was all about?
Not until I asked.
Okay, and what was the complaint?
You know, but I think, to be clear, I think it was noise and us running a paving business. But I think the majority of it was noise or lights, maybe blinding in their bedroom, possibly.
Okay. What kind of lights?
Truck lights.
Okay. And when were these truck lights? I mean, are y'all doing trucking at night out of there?
No,
Can you move heavy equipment at nighttime?
no.
They just didn't like the light. Were you grinding anything? Were you running any electric motors? Were you processing any concrete or asphalt? Or did you have any inventory of piles of gravel or asphalt or any of that kind of stuff out there?
No.
Okay. It's simply your home office in a permitted use and a parking area for the barnyard,
Yes.
and you made it look nice.
I hope I did. I get a lot of compliments from people in the town.
And you tried to put up a nice sign. You went all the way down 96 Highway, which is a thoroughfare entrance for the town of Zebulon, didn't you?
Yes.
Kept it mowed, continued your farming practices, and this was part and parcel to your enterprise out there.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons it was named Perry Land and Investments
Yes.
Incorporated.
Yes.
It isn't, it is, okay. All right. How are your employees paid?
Weekly.
Okay. Give them a check?
They're actually all direct deposit.
Okay, so they don't have to come there.
There's no need to come to the office, no.
All right. Thank you. I think that's all of my questions. What, couple more questions. Got soybeans all around you this year?
Yes.
Okay. Digging a pond?
Yes.
Why'd you put the pretty fence up all the way down the highway?
Because I'm going to put some pretty black cows out there.
Okay. Historically, that has, I think your father-in-law had cows.
Yes.
Your granddaddy, father-in-law had cows.
Yes. We also have horses. They're actually at my mother's 15-acre farm in Goldsboro. And so we've been working on the farm. My husband's trying to make the pond bigger, and we're looking to build another horse barn so I can move them back to our farm.
Any and all of these improvements were not necessary at all, really, to operate a paving company.
No,
You did it to make the place look good.
that's what I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Your witness, sir.
Town council, do you have any questions?
No questions from the town.
Does the board have any questions? I have one quick one, in that Wake County classifies property differently for tax purposes. This 2.7 acres in question, how is it currently being taxed?
It's taxed under Perry Land and Investments.
Is it taxed as agricultural?
Agricultural.
It is taxed as agricultural?
I have a tax bill.
Yeah. And do you have a copy that you could provide just for
Yes, sir.
the exhibit?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Any other questions?
I had a question. What year was Dixon Paving established?
2013.
Have any of, if I may, I jumped the gun.
Is that your question?
Yes,
I have a
yes.
few questions on redirect based
You
on
may.
y'all's questions. If Mr. Creech, who's one of the adjoining property owners, comes out of his driveway on his 4955 200 horsepower tractor, where are his headlights going to be?
Facing my farm and the adjacent neighbor beside of me on the east. Because that's his path right dead across from our
That
path.
path is right directly across.
I mean, right where our office is, our home office.
For the record, she is directing her attention to what I believe would be on the screen in front of each board member. And that would be his path and his bean fields.
in both pictures in 13 and 17, and it has not been modified. Actually, I modified those driveways just so Gary could bring the combine in. We had to make them wider, and I did that with my excavators and our tractors and our skid steers because, you know, we had a really bad drainage issue. The water was settling, and we had to go in and fix it. And so that was another reason why we had to modify it in order for me to get around my father-in-law's yard to my yard.
Okay. That would be all of mine, redirect.
Great. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Next witness?
We would call Gerald Lanier.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address, please.
Gerald W. Lanier, live at 331 Perry Curtis Road.
May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Lanier, you live across the road.
Correct.
You were notified about this hearing.
My wife was notified. Well, really my mother-in-law.
Okay. In any
It's
event,
going to end up being me, but
how long-
technically, yeah.
How long have you lived across the road?
I have lived there 35 years.
What was it like out there on the farm when they were born and back on those dilapidated buildings?
Yeah, it was a lot of activity, ton of activity.
Trucks and
tractors, combines.
All hours of the night checking barns,
Oh, yeah.
all hours of the morning taking barns out.
Thank the Lord for buck barns because them old ones just had to be checked 24/7.
Is anything really changed about the use of the property other than the home office and making it look pretty?
No, sir, not a bit.
Does it look better?
That looks 100% better. I have complimented Miss Dixon, or Miss Perry, I'm sorry.
Do you have a home office?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And you live across the road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's permitted use in R20?
Correct, yep.
And y'all have a farm there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many acres y'all got over there?
Well, that particular one is 43, I think.
So similar in size?
Similar.
Okay. And are the tractors going and coming?
Matter of fact, I got a brand new one coming in next week.
Okay. And is it really very much difference between the activities of a farm and what the Perrys are using their property for?
Not that I can see.
And furthermore, you heard Mr. Perry read the statute and introduce it into evidence, didn't you?
Yes, huh?
And was that the first time that you knew that farms and farming activities were exempt from municipal zoning?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
Not everybody knows that, do they?
Mm-mm. I know you do, though.
Well, you couldn't put a hog operation out in there, could you? Could not.
Could not, no. Not this day
That'd
and
be a
age. That'd be tricky today.
That'd be tricky today. But having a home office and it continuing to be do you think it's a farm over there?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm jealous he's putting cows over there.
No further questions.
Any follow-up questions from town staff or board?
No, a question, point of clarification. I want to rely on the statute and some of the legal materials. I know you admitted something. I just want to ensure that, that there's no issue with referencing legal materials that I don't admit through a witness. I'm not planning on admitting them. It's the statutes and some case law. But I just heard counsel mention that he got the statute admitted, and it was a summary of it by Coates. I'm okay with that being in, but I want to ensure that the board is considering the statutes, and I have them with me.
Understood.
Okay.
I mean,
As the board understand, Exhibit...
I actually brought the statute. We can give that,
Yeah, I have copies, and so I think I want to do that later.
argue to them, I
Exactly.
believe, what the law is.
Right.
Right, and Exhibit 1 was simply a email newsletter, I believe, from David Owens at the UNC government, not actually a copy of the law.
No questions.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Unless there's questions.
No questions from the board?
Thank you, Mr. Lanier.
Next witness?
Billy Wayne, do you want to testify? Well, then that's what this is all about. All right. If you'll take the witness stand, direct your attention to the clerk, raise your right hand.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Will you state your name and address and speak into the mic?
Billy Wayne Perry.
Now, Mr. Perry, well, tell us what you want to do.
I won't tell you, this farm has been in this for generations, not 100 years, but for generations it's been passed down. It's always been passed.
For them, not me.
Well, they hear me. But anyway, it's not just 100 years, it's been there for all generations on down. I don't know how far back. This barn they're talking about is way over 100 years old, a remodel, way over. And that junk I had around there was buck barns, which everybody had buck barns back in them days, and they run 7.5 horsepower motors. They run 24 hours. You could hear them running a half a mile. I had tractors, all kinds of farm equipment, oil drums, gas drums. Labor I had around there, in the summertime, probably 20 people around there most of the time. And we gathered right at the same place. I done right on the same land. And so that's about all I got to say about it. It's just been all this time. No changes. Only thing that's been improved since I've had it. Farming went down, tobacco went down. We don't have tobacco anymore, we have soybeans. So all the barns were done away with, which was called junk, which I didn't call them junk. And it's improved by 100% is what it's had. And so that's what I want to tell you.
You'll direct your attention to honorable counsel for the state. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, one more thing I want to say, too.
okay.
Yeah, and one more thing, then that's all, I'll be through. One more thing.
Sorry, I was taking notes, sir. I apologize.
I can promise you it don't grow asphalt, because asphalt's much more expensive than tobacco, and I certainly would like to see it start growing some. So I can sell it. All right, now.
Town council have any questions?
No questions.
How about the board? All right, thank you.
Yes.
Any further witnesses?
I don't believe so at this time. Well, do have one witness. In the record, it reflects a gentleman was noticed to be here if he wanted to be heard, and I think he's in the room. What's your name, sir? George Manjor. Okay. I would like to call George to the stand.
All right. And direct your attention to the clerk.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and speak into the mic, please.
George Manjor at 330 Perry Curtis Road.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
And one more time so we can get it.
330 Perry Curtis Road, George Manjor.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
I think I'm doing that right.
I'm here telling my side of the story. I ain't
I
allowed.
called you as a witness,
Okay,
and I'd like to examine you if
Okay.
it's appropriate. Thank you, sir. You're the adjoining property owner? You got
Yes.
notice of this?
yes.
How large is your home site?
What's that?
How much land you got there?
13 acres.
Okay. And is it designated as a farm?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is it designated as a construction company?
No,
Is it zoned for any kind of, do you do construction?
yes, I do.
Okay. And do you do that off-site?
Yeah, off-site.
Okay. And do you have a shop there?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you have a work trailer
Yes, I do.
with ladders?
Yes,
Okay. And so this is your homestead and your little home office. That's where you have your office?
yes.
And that's totally fine. What is your complaint?
Do tractors have flashing lights? Have you ever been out on a road when paving companies are working on the road and they're backing up? Have you ever heard the beeping noise, how loud it is so they don't accidentally run somebody over? Have you ever heard how loud they are?
Yes.
I hear that beeping noise constantly. I've been woken up on 4:30 on a Sunday morning from that beeping noise, and the 18-wheeler has a flashing light so people know that there's a huge truck there.
Did you have any 18-wheelers going by the front of your house?
No, not in front of my house.
They don't
Right
go
next
through there?
door. What was that?
18-wheelers don't go through there?
Yeah, they do.
You didn't hear those?
Not no beeping, not no flashing noise. When
Okay.
they go through there, you just hear them
Yeah.
truck on by.
You know what a jake brake is?
A what?
A jake brake.
No.
Okay. You ever heard that? When that truck's stopping up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a jake brake.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think we're going to have to prohibit tractor trailers on that road?
No.
Okay. Are you aware in the state of North Carolina that on a farm that they are exempt from the enforcement action that you have brought or requested the town to bring regarding this? Did you know that at the time?
No.
Okay.
Let me interrupt here a second and let's stay on the appeal case.
Right.
We're drifting off into other properties, other businesses, and I would like to hear from him and his complaint.
Okay.
You may go ahead and present your case.
Okay. When the employees get out of the truck, trash falls, it gets blown into my property. On 2 occasions, while me and my wife were sitting, first occasion, my wife was sitting on the back porch, a guy got out of the truck, faced my property, pulled his pants down and urinated. Another time, I was out there 6 o'clock in the morning having my coffee with my wife, and the guy did the same thing, and I started yelling at him.
You reckon farm workers ever took a leak out there?
There's a porta john, I don't know, 100 feet away from him.
You mean they put a porta john out there?
Yeah, they put a porta john in. But should he have turned, faced my property and urinated?
So this is more somebody peed in front of your wife?
It's not that. I've been woken up 5 o'clock on a Sunday morning. On Easter Sunday, my guests are arriving for dinner. 18-wheeler pulls in, flashing lights, beep, beep. It is loud. I hear that loud beeping noise constantly. It's just not one day in the morning, afternoon. I hear that in the evenings when it gets dark, Saturdays, Sundays.
Are there any farmers around that neighborhood?
Yes, there's plenty of farmers.
Okay.
I enjoy
does
watching
Mr.
the tractors plowing the fields.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
You don't see that. You don't see flashing lights when they're coming down the road, I guess.
Not with the tractors. I haven't.
Okay. You ever seen a combine at work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I just said, I sit at the window and watch them across the field when they're plowing, planting, whatever they do.
Okay. You ever plow at night?
Yeah,
Spray at night?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, once again, let's try to keep on topic. This is an appeal of land use, and we keep drifting off onto all these other side subjects that in my opinion, and I don't know about the rest of the board, have very little to do with the case.
Do you disagree with the fact that farms are exempt?
What was the question?
That farms are exempt from the Zebulon's zoning ordinance?
Object to the question. Calls for a legal conclusion.
It called for his opinion of the law, not the truth of
Object.
the
Calls
law.
for a legal conclusion.
Sustained with no opinion. Next question.
I was brought up there being heard, not questioned.
Yeah, that's what the board would like to hear from you.
And
Yeah, I think I'm through with my examination of this gentleman.
I mean, if there was a privacy wall where I don't have to see the lights, where the sound will bounce off and go the other direction, I would be fine. I got an open fence, I got like the light shining on my bedroom at night. All these vehicles have LED lights. Everybody knows how bright LED lights are. I got that constantly.
And we've heard testimony, the equipment is there about 50% of the time.
It's
How many-
in and out. It's,
Yeah, how
some
many-
days it's there quite a few days. Some days the lot's completely empty because they got plenty of work. But equipment's coming in and out, and I'm getting light shining on my house, beeping noise throughout the day, evening, night.
How many days a week or per month would you say that occurs?
Every Sunday and Saturday, 18-wheelers coming in, either dropping something off or picking something up. And some days during the weekdays, that 18-wheelers coming in and out.
Okay, so probably 2 or 3
But
times a week.
Sundays is always guys out coming in and out, taking machinery and going. Some mornings, there's a few guys out there getting in the trucks, leaving their car and going. Sometimes I'm sitting out in the back porch, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Somebody's pulling in, dropping off a vehicle, getting in their car, going home.
Have you observed maintenance work going on there as well, or simply vehicles coming and going?
No, there's maintenance going on there as well also. The big machines are moving, and again, they have the backup beeping sound, and they're loud.
Okay, does the town have any further, town staff have any questions?
No, the only thing I wanted to make sure was that, I think you have, but just to confirm, sir, that you've had the opportunity to share, your side and
Yeah, I moved
your
out to
opinion
the
on what's
country
happening
to
out
be in
there.
the country, to enjoy the tractors, plowing, seeding, whatever, but not to have light shining on my house, flashing lights and beeping noises.
Does the board have any questions? All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, on redirect
Okay, go ahead.
briefly.
Pertain it to the case, please.
Sir,
Pertain it to the hearing, the case.
Mr. Madger, you got to call him back up, Larry. He's got redirects.
If he has a question for you, you may have to come back to the podium if he has a question for you.
Andy, do you have a question?
Do you have a question for this witness?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of my clients wanted to ask something on redirect. You don't run a skill saw out there at your house?
Yeah, I have one.
I mean, do you use it?
Yeah, I'm putting in the new hardwood floors in my living room. So yes, I'm using my skill saw. I'm using a miter saw, I'm using a table saw.
Okay. And you're sawing outside?
Yeah,
No further question.
okay.
And you don't saw at 4:30 in the morning, do you?
No,
Okay,
no, I'm sleeping at that time.
all right.
Done?
Thank you.
Yes, sir?
You're welcome, thank you.
Yeah, do you have any more witnesses?
I do. I would like to call Ms. Perry back to the stand.
Tracy, okay?
Impeachment purposes.
Because we're recording this, state your name again, please.
Swear in or no?
No,
Good.
just your name.
I'm tired, I'm sorry. I'm tired, been up since 7. Tracy Dixon Perry, 224 Perry Curtis Road, Zebulon.
Ms. Perry, you have now, you've been seated here in council chambers.
Yes.
You heard the previous witness testify about what it was that was his complaint,
Yes.
okay? Was that truthful?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm sure he does see the one lowboy tractor that I do have, the lights coming in, because he can come in sometimes late with the time change. So, you know, it may be 8 o'clock and it's light, and the time changes in the fall and it gets dark early. The beeping, I'm not sure how he hears that. You know, it's only if he's backing up, that's to park it, and then that's it. But normal restrictions, we cannot move equipment at night without a special permit. We cannot move equipment on holiday weekends at all. The DOT does not allow us to do that. I can get fined. So I'm not quite sure what he's...
Will they let you move it on Sunday?
Within a certain guideline we have, and that's about it. Very rarely does he do that.
It's expensive to bring the equipment there. There's no reason to bring the equipment there, is it?
No, no.
No further.
If there's no reason to bring the equipment there, why would you take it there?
Unless they're, like he said, my husband said, some of the equipment is there. Like, I have probably 7 skid steers. Well, we may be running 2 of them, and then I have extra at the yard.
Okay, is maintenance work done there as well? Because obviously I know refueling is because of the
Correct.
huge tanks.
Correct. If there is maintenance, if it's not at Gregory Pool Equipment or Komatsu, or Lender Machinery, it's little, such as if, a lot of my guys do maintenance in the field, like if their tire goes flat, they have to repair it there because that costs production. The only maintenance that they'll do at the shop is if it's something, if a track is broke and they can fix it. Otherwise, it normally goes to a machinery place where they can, because you're talking about some of my machines are heavy. We don't have lifts there. I don't have a full-blown shop. It's minor things like greasing the machines or a simple tire. Otherwise, it's going to a full-service equipment body shop where they can handle it. We are not equipped to do that.
Okay, thank you. Town staff, any questions?
No questions.
Board? You're being very quiet tonight.
If you own a farm, do you park your vehicles that you use probably in a central location, more times than not? In other words, you might bring all your tractors,
Sure.
all your harvesters, combines to a central location to keep them parked.
Sure. That's that location right there. On 2017, I made that parking lot bigger because of Gary Creech leases the land from us, and he has his truck, his son's truck, his helper's trucks, his Hispanics that help him. He has water tanks for, the combines and other equipment, and he uses our diesel tanks. He uses anything that, we share. My husband's tractors are there, and he's constantly working on that, so we kind of feed off of each other.
Okay, so at this parking lot, are there other vehicles ever parked there other than Dixon paving? Like Gary Creech, does Gary ever park his
Yes.
stuff there?
Yes, absolutely.
And he's farming your land?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When he sprays, and he'll do that at night. He'll park that combine or his whatever tractor he needs, he will park it right there.
So the use of that parking lot is also definitely related to the farming that is going on that 40 acres?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And with that, that would be the evidence for the petition.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else present that would like to speak for or against? For evidence purposes. Yeah. Staff, any questions of any witnesses?
No, nothing further, no.
Okay, and how about the board? All right, and Mead, could I have the staff, I'm going to have you both briefly summarize your case, if you care to?
And I'll speak for the town,
Okay,
and whatever order you prefer, Mr. Chair.
go right ahead.
Okay, sure. I want to start with a bit of an administrative matter. Obviously, we've had the hearing. This is not a basis for anything this evening. I just want the record to reflect that we became aware today that Perry Land and Investments owns this parcel. Perry Land and Investments Incorporated. At the moment, Perry Land and Investments Incorporated is suspended by the North Carolina Secretary of State to do business for whatever reason the North Carolina Secretary of State has decided. And there is a statute that provides, just a moment. A statute that provides that any act performed or attempted to be performed during the period of suspension is invalid and of no effect unless the Secretary of State reinstates the corporation pursuant to GS 105-232. And so I just would like the record to reflect that in the event there are further proceedings, that is an independent basis in support of the town's position. That would be that the appellant, Perry Land and Investments, Inc., was suspended at the time it filed its notice of appeal and therefore had no authority to file that notice of appeal and effectively did not. And again, that's not what we're here to argue. I'm not asking for any relief from the board on that. No discussion, no analysis is needed. I just want the record to reflect that we're aware of that, and the effect of that is a legal effect that if it has to be decided at a later time, it can be decided at a later time.
Does that nullify the deed that was done today, or can that still be carried through?
I don't know. I'll speak to the deed in a moment, but no, it's not my position that I don't. I'll say I don't know, and I'll reserve the right to form a conclusion on that if it becomes necessary. So I'll just speak to the hearing today. Thank you.
And on that point, I'd like to be heard, that he's raised as a point of order. I really appreciate your acknowledging that you learned that. How did you learn that?
You let us know, sir.
I told you, didn't I? Because I was concerned about whether or not this board could go forward whatsoever.
I didn't know your concern.
Pardon?
I did not know you were concerned.
Why would I call you and tell you that? But anyway, in any event, you learned it from the actual appellate petitioner's lawyer, correct?
That's correct.
I confided in you and told you that and discussed whether or not we should go forward.
We did not have a discussion, no.
Well, your law partner and I.
That's what I understand, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Just for the record.
Okay.
Okay.
Nelson?
Yep. No, not on that. So I want to close and talk about the law here that's applicable. I have some copies here. This is, it'll take me a minute if I can hand these out.
I'm diabetic.
You may slip out.
Okay.
We won't do any testimony, right? We could wait just 1 minute until the other board member gets back. For the record, the town has turned in exhibit, what I'm going to call number 2, which consists of 3 items, a copy of 106-518.1, 160A-360, 3 pages, and 153A-340, grant of power, 5 pages.
One just slight clarification, 106-581.1.
106-581.1.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Correct, thank you.
I'll just briefly orient the board to the applicable law here. So we know this is about zoning. We know the case is about what a town can and can't do when it comes to enforcing its zoning laws. And so 153A-340 says what we're here about. These regulations, that is zoning regulations, may not affect property used for bona fide farm purposes. Provided, however, that this subsection does not limit regulation with respect to the use of farm property for non-farm purposes, okay? Both sides have introduced and relied upon some great resources that people that work for the towns rely upon. You all have probably seen them, the School of Government materials. In the staff report was attachment 11 in the staff report was a David Owens article kind of summing this up. And so the exemption that the applicant is claiming requires that the property involved be a farm, that it be a farm, and 2, that the activity in question must be for farming purposes. So you have to have a classification of the property itself as a farm, and then that the activity in question be for farming purposes. And we'll discuss that a little bit in a moment. First, on the statute we're looking at here, 153A-340, B2 at the end says, for purposes of determining whether a property is being used for bona fide farm purposes, any and all the following shall constitute sufficient evidence that the property is being used for bona fide farm purposes. And it says a farm sales tax exemption listed by Department of Revenue, copy of the property tax listing showing that the property is eligible for participation in the present use value program pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, a copy of the farm owners or operators Schedule F for the most recent federal income tax return, or a forest management plan. We didn't get any of those tonight. You don't have any evidence that those things exist on this parcel. So I want to kind of try to characterize, we heard a lot of evidence, characterize what the town views as relevant and what the town views as not relevant, because that's the inquiry. Well, first, let me back up a minute. There was no contrary evidence offered that if this property is not a bona fide farm use, if the defense effectively, if you find that defense does not apply, the staff presented the evidence of the violations. The violations are in the staff report, and there was no evidence presented that those violations don't exist, except for the sign. They removed the sign, but the other ones in the NOV, that evidence is in, it's uncontroverted. So we're only here to consider what I'm referring to as the farm defense. So things that are not relevant to the farm defense are how pretty it is. It is a pretty piece of property. No one's contesting that, and the visual appeal of it is completely irrelevant to what it is and how it's being used. What the neighbors are doing. What the neighbors are doing is completely irrelevant to whether it's a farm and whether the activity, that is paving, we're talking about Dixon Paving, a company, we saw the signs, we've seen the trucks, whether a paving company is a farming activity. So on the first one, the two-part test, the farm, it's got to be located on a farm, and we heard a lot of evidence trying to fit this thing into a farm. It's a 2.75 acre parcel. Obviously, the appellant recognized they had a problem because they issued a deed today trying to fix that problem, to get it back into a one big piece. No evidence that a deed from an owner to the same owner acts to recombine the plat. There's no evidence that the plat's been recombined. It's two parcels. And the one we're here on tonight is a 2.75 acre parcel. Why, again, what's relevant, what's not relevant, why and how it came to be that way is not relevant. That is what it is today. It is a 2.75 acre parcel. There's lots of land in Zebulon that used to be a farm. All of Zebulon used to be a farm. If what happened, and it's a proud history, I'm not knocking the history, it is a proud history, but you can't rest on your laurels of what things used to be, or there'd be no progress in this town. I mean, everything used to be a farm. And I want to quote the next one, 160A-360. This refers to the application of the bona fide farm exception in the ETJ. It's highlighted on the second page, 160A-360, territorial jurisdiction. Property that's located in a geographic area of a municipality's extraterritorial jurisdiction and that's used for a bona fide farm purposes is exempt from the exercise of the municipality's extraterritorial jurisdiction under this article. Again, that's what the appellant's saying. They're saying it doesn't count. We're in the ETJ and we're exempt because we're a farm. The next sentence is where we are, though. Property that is located in the geographic area of a municipality's extraterritorial jurisdiction and that ceases to be used for bona fide farm purposes shall, that's the affirmative, shall become subject to exercise of the municipality's extraterritorial jurisdiction under this article. That's what happened. It used to be a farm, it was carved off, its use changed, and so it becomes subject to the ETJ and the zoning laws. And that's the nature of the property at the moment. I want to just briefly touch on its use. If you will look back at 153A-340, Part 2. Bona fide farm purposes include production and activities relating, and I highlighted it there, relating or incidental to the production of crops, grains, fruits, vegetables, ornamental and flowering plants, dairy, livestock, poultry, and all other forms of agriculture as defined in 106-581.1. I handed that up too. Agriculture defined. This is 106-581.1. It's a one-pager that I handed up. For the purposes of this article, the terms agriculture, agricultural, and farming refer to all the following. The cultivation of soil, I'm paraphrasing, but you have it in front of you. Planting and production of trees, dairying, aquaculture, operating farm and farm structures, incident to a farming operation, marketing and selling agricultural products, private grain house or warehouse operation. you all know, this is a rural part of the county. We all know what farms are. We all know what farming activity is. The legislature that wrote the statute knows what those things are. It's what is defined here. It is growing things. It is not a paving company. It is not a paving company. And there is adequate evidence, more than adequate evidence, and your common sense in evaluating that evidence that just because it's next to a farm, just because it used to be a farm, doesn't make it a farm. It's a paving company. The sign on the driveway says Dixon Paving. And finally, I want to just offer a couple cases for consideration. I'll hand these up. For the record and for the board's reference, I have brought 10 copies of the other stuff and only brought 5 copies of these, so that's my fault. We'll have to share. But the cases I've handed up are Jeffries v. County of Harnett, 817 Southeast 2nd 36, 2018 Court of Appeals case, and North Iredell Neighbors for Rural Life v. Iredell County, 196 NC App 68, a 2009 North Carolina Court of Appeals case. And these are instructive in the, and so, you know, these are cases that made it to the Court of Appeals, started on a board like this, various level of appeals to the trial court and then the Court of Appeals. And there's a good summary and explanation of how the courts look at the evidence to be considered in a case like this. In the case of, the Jeffries case, that involved a shooting range called Drake Landing in Harnett County. And it was litigated for a long time, and it got remanded down. And the instruction of the board was, you know, hey, the analysis, as I read it to be, and I encourage you to review it, is well, where you're raising pheasants and you know, it's close to what the farming activity once was. That's a close call. Let's send it back to the board, get some evidence on that. But in the Court of Appeals opinion, shooting ranges, trap stations, commercial activities like that, that's not really incidental to farming use. So you might be okay on the pheasant raising, but you're probably not going to be okay on the trap houses and the commercial gun range. Again, weighing the analysis of incidental to farm use. The last one was North Iredell Neighbors for Rural Life versus Iredell County. Those neighbors were upset over the use of a property for biodiesel production. And some of it was used, some of that biodiesel was used on the farm. The Court of Appeals considered that, but a lot of that biodiesel was shipped off elsewhere. And the board considered that and ultimately decided that that biodiesel production operation was not incidental to farm use and did not qualify for the bona fide farm exemption. The last thing I'll point to, and again, these are admitted, and this is in the Coates Cannon's, the David Owens summary. You know, it can be tough, I understand and believe, for a board for a question down the middle. You know, where does this fall? We're in the middle. This is a tough call. This case is not a tough call. It is a paving company on 2.75 acres next to the road, with equipment that beeps when it backs up, with orange road cones parked back there on a trailer for use on a highway, not on a farm, and all the other evidence that we heard tonight. And as the court noted, excuse me, not the court, David Owens noted, an asphalt plant, convenience store, residential subdivision are non-farms subject to county zoning, even if conducted on a qualifying farm. I'm not saying that's the gospel. I'm just saying this is someone that looks at this stuff, and you all have to form your own opinion. But I think based on the evidence tonight, your decision is clear, is that it is not a farm, nor is it being used as a farming activity or for farm purposes. And if either one of those is true, that is, neither one of them happens to be the case, then the appellant should be denied and the decision of the town should be upheld. Thank you.
Board have any questions?
I have one. If the parking lot were located anywhere else on the farm, right beside where the soybeans are planted, just parking trucks that they own, is that against the ordinance for actually having their owned trucks being parked on their land?
So it is a commercial operation. It is a business. It's owned by Mrs. Perry. It is the business's trucks. It's not her personal vehicles. It is Dixon paving trucks, and it is an R20 zone. And it is a commercial operation and commercial vehicles coming and going, being parked in R20.
If they were grain haulers, it would be different.
If they were grain haulers hauling soybeans that they grew on the farm, it would be very different.
Okay.
If there are no further questions of the witnesses, at this point in time, I'll end the, excuse me, that's right. Do you have any comments or summation?
I will, if I may stand again, it's
Yes,
just
you may.
the only way I can operate. Reading legislative history about why farms were exempt, it talked about open space, maintaining, that's good for towns, that's good for zoning, that's good for farmers, that's good for economy. The fact that the manner in which farms are being used today, this list that he gave, that's just by way of example. If you think for 1 minute the federal government has got it wrong, that's just a list of things we could have done. We chose not to share a tax return, okay? That is not what has to be introduced for you to make a decision as to whether or not it is a farm. For you to make a decision whether or not this is a farm, the problem with all of this started with the fact that they tried to collateralize improvements to the farm. And they pledged, collateralized the land that was the farm for purposes of purchasing equipment. That was the testimony. We presented this deed not as any type of trying to, at the last minute, we proposed the deed, if that's what it takes to satisfy you, that it's a farm, we'll put it all back together. It was a business strategy not to encumber their homes, not to encumber the home place, their father-in-law, granddaddy now. It was a business strategy, but they're willing to recombine it. So I think that counsel for the town has done a great job arguing the 2.7 acres. But I don't believe that that is the total picture that is being painted here. What we would suggest is that it is a farm. It is exempt from your jurisdiction. They have signed the deed. If you want it conveyed, they'll do that. We can't get it recorded because of this administrative dissolution. This administrative dissolution is a debate between, and I shared that with council, didn't realize that it would be used as a way to say that we were trying to be devious. as it was presented, we discovered today that they're not even in business. But if he wants to go down that road, let's go down that road. You got the wrong party in interest tonight. What can you do to a dissolved corporation? Nothing. Can't do a thing. Doesn't exist. We've got to start all over and we'll go again. But they chose to use it against us rather than I discovered it and I was concerned about it and I discussed it with counsel, both counsel. I believe he was on the speakerphone. Somebody was in the room with your lawyer. I don't know who it was. But I disclosed it, and I said, you know, I'm concerned about this because I want to recombine it so that there's no question as to the acreage, the use of it. 92% of this land is being used for a farm, and the rest is the barnyard. Now, a place where she's got her own home office, which is, and there's been no evidence to contradict this, a permitted use, even if you don't go there on the farm. It's a permitted use. The fact of parking heavy equipment on a farm or parking heavy equipment on this barnyard, I really don't see any distinction that anyone can draw between what farmers do generally and the parking of, and it's, I heard the chairman acknowledge 50%, I believe, but I thought that the actual owner of the company said very rarely were they there. Now, it probably got started with the guy down there using the bushes for the bathroom rather than the porta-john. But, you know, on a farm, they put the porta-johns on wheels now, and they roll up to the field, and, you know, he could have a migrant camp there if he wanted to. And maybe the town of Zebulon and this complaining party would rather have a migrant camp there. Perfectly legal. Legal. He could do any number of things on his farm. He simply has his home office there, and on occasion there is heavy equipment that's brought there when it is not used. You know, where do you put your combine all winter when it's not used? Where do you put your tractors when it's not used? What's the difference between that, this permitted use of a home office and heavy equipment? What's the difference? I don't see the distinction whatsoever. These are examples of ways to prove that there's law. If the petitioner's appellant's exhibits 1 through 4, which are farm commodity reports reflecting the size of the land sworn to by operators and producers and owners, if that's not better evidence than somebody's Schedule C tax return, and in fact, most accountants do not use Schedule C. Most accountants put it on Schedule A with their, the farming, they don't get deductions. So here we have one ownership of a 40-some acre tract of land. It has approved commodity reports accepted by the federal government, accepted by the state, accepted by the local farm service, recognizing and saying, sir, you're a farm. The testimony was that it was tax exempt, farm status, and to my way of thinking, and I would encourage the board to look at the practicalities of this, you've taken what someone in good faith was trying to proceed with, and I do want to address the assistant planner's role in this. Most honorable gentleman they've ever worked with. He was simply trying to figure out a way, as we are tonight, to weave through the code, weave through the case law. Council failed to discuss the case in Durham where a similar-sized farm, they took all the dirt off of it, hauled it away, and they were converting it into an equestrian center, and it was deemed. It took all the dirt away, built massive warehouses for horses, and it was deemed farm use. So I think there is more than just trying to put your little finger on a sign that a citizen's trying to make a living with, catch him with his britches down because he conveyed this in a banking matter, and put your head in the sand and say, well, you know, and you saw the pictures. There's a fence here. There's a bean field here. You heard the testimony. The neighbors, the farmers across the road, the ones signing these reports, where they put their equipment. Is it really reasonable? Is it really reasonable to treat them outside of what the legislature deemed was the way that we want to go forward with our farmers? And that is towns, leave them alone. They're going to have oil barrels out there. They're going, don't go by my house, please. And my wife, I hope y'all don't share this tape with her, but she wants me to clean it up. But that's just not what farms are. I fail to see the distinction between a code that allows a home office. There was some concern about a home office. There are no real employees reporting there. It's a place, it's a barnyard where they fenced in, got a loan, and they're parking as needed, not necessarily employees or heavy equipment. That's gone. And they put up a nice sign. That's really what was the problem. They put up a nice sign and says, we're a paving company. And so I would argue that it is a permitted use under, not only is it a farm and exempt, and you don't have the right to touch it, but that it is permitted use to have a home office and home occupation there, just as the neighbors, just as the people notified across the road. And in fact, those notified came in here and spoke in favor of it. So with those comments, I would ask you to look at the totality of all of these circumstances, look at how we got here, and not punish these improvements and violate what I consider would be the law and reach out and try to legislate a protected class. That would be my comments. Thank you.
I've got 4 quick questions for you.
Yes, sir.
First of all, the Board of Adjustments takes our job very seriously, and normally when something gets to us, it's because there's a lot of different opinions and angles looking at it, okay? And we're basically looking at 2.75 acres and whether or not it is a bona fide farm. And going by the 153A-340 grant of power, we are giving 4 questions or giving 4 things that can be provided to us to prove it's a farm. And first question I have for you is, do you have a farm sales tax exemption certificate issued by the Department of Revenue? I didn't see one presented tonight, just asking if you have that.
I don't have it.
Okay. Number 2, do you have a copy of the property tax
You heard
listing?
testimony that they had a farm exempt classification. I believe that was testimony.
I heard testimony, but did we get any exhibits?
No.
Okay. Question number 2, a copy of the property tax listing showing that the property is eligible for participation in the present use value program pursuant to General Statute 105-277.3. A copy of that was not presented, was it not?
No.
Okay. Question 3, a copy of the farm owners or operators Schedule F from the owners or operators' most recent federal income tax return. I don't believe that was presented. Is it available?
if they want to give it to you. This
Okay.
list, sir, is not what it says this is sufficient, then you don't ask any more questions. We've presented an abundance of evidence other than that.
We've had a lot.
That's my argument of what the law is.
Right,
But,
and my
but
fourth
I honor
question-
your request for those documents, and I believe that she said she would furnish them.
And the fourth question was a forest management plan.
Well, that's, you know what, why a forestry management plan is if you don't have any crops. Then you can be tax exempt and have a field of trees.
I'm just following the guidelines that tell me how I can determine
Understood.
whether it's a farm.
Yeah.
I've heard a
No,
lot
no,
of
the guy-
opinions.
Those are, what that says is, any of these are adequate, and you don't ask any more questions.
That's correct.
That's what it says. What we've done is we've produced more than that. We've shown you what the federal government, state, and local government recognizes as a farm. We gave you the farm number. It's in the record. You have the commodity reports. Those things are there for your consideration. Now, if you don't want to consider those, we object.
Yeah, I saw the commodity report, but I never heard anybody say there's soybeans grown in this 2.75 acres, or were they planted today?
They don't have to grow it. You don't have to grow it. Everything has to be filled with. You rotate crops. You have a barnyard. I mean, that's not the way you look at it, sir. In my humble opinion, I think that what you look at is it a farm? You don't get a farm number if you're not a farm.
Yeah, and I'm looking.
You don't file commodity reports if you're not a farm.
Right, and I'm looking at 2.75 acres.
That's what you want to look at, perhaps. But we're arguing that we have a deed. You also have a deed in front of you. Let's put it all back together. What's the problem?
I have a partially signed deed that hasn't even been filed yet.
Doesn't have to be filed.
Okay,
The deed.
those are my questions. Does the board have any other questions?
I'd like a brief response if I may.
You may.
Thank you. Want to ensure the board understands that its role is not to punish and the decision is not to punish. That is not the case. It is just to apply the law. My last point is, in what we just heard from the counselor, again, the town's position is it's partitioned, it's not a farm. But even if you were to accept most of what the evidence was about tonight, which was to say, hey, it's one big farm. It's one big farm and this is just the parking lot for the farm. Even if you accept that, you still have to make a determination as to the use in question. Dixon Paving Company. You have to think about the use. And if that is not incidental to farm use, even if it is one big family farm, which again, we contend it's not, it's still not a bona fide farm and it is still subject to the zoning jurisdiction of the town.
And in brief response, please tell me how you get around the home office in R20.
No. Any other questions from the board?
Hold tight.
If not, we'll close the fact-gathering part of the hearing and debate among ourselves here. Any questions, comments, clarifications?
Property being shared by both.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Property being shared by both. My question.
Your question is the
The
property,
If the property is a farm and it's sharing other things, how do we juggle that?
Well, you're
It's
asking-
yes.
yeah,
My-
Counselor.
My understanding is that the way the statute is written is that it's a use focus rather than a division focus, that if you have to make two findings of fact or two levels of finding of fact. Whether this is a farm and whether this is a farm use. And so if it's the way the statute's written, any particular piece of this property that no longer ceases to be used as a farm, however you will define it, is subject to the jurisdiction of the town. So it's not so much a, and I'm sure Mr. Gabe disagrees with me, but I'm doing the best I can to let you know what I believe the statute says, that it's, that once it stops being used for any particular portion of it, it doesn't have to be deeded. Just, you know, if it stops being used for a farm operation and in the ancillary use of the farm operation, then you can, if you consider that, then it's a part of a subject to your jurisdiction. That's what that statute we've all looked at now for the last 3 hours.
I do have a question for Towns Council. It was stated that we don't want to punish.
I can't answer anymore.
No, we're done with them. We're talking among ourselves and/or a question for our council.
Okay. Well, I will put it out then. If anybody's got any insight that's sitting beside me, we're not here to punish. But if we decide with the town that, you know, that it is indeed that 3-acre tract is not farm, 37 acres are, what are we telling the Perrys that they have to do with that 3-acre parking lot, home office, Dixon Paving Company? What is it, what is it that the town actually then tells them to do or not to do on that piece of property? You know,
Basically, if you rule it's a farm, they can pretty much do what they want to do unless it's a excluded activity, as it is in the ETJ. But if you say it's a business activity and it's not a farm, then they would have to either request some type of rezoning, cease operations until they could rezone it or get it reclassified.
okay. From what
Correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, but
You're really looking to either affirm the decision of the planning administrator or uphold the appeal and the contention of the appellant. So it's either subject to the jurisdiction of the town planning or it's not.
based upon whether it's a farm or not.
Yeah.
Okay. For council, if they had never subdivided 6 years ago or whatever to secure a loan, which I differ from some on this board because I am a small business and I cannot separate myself from that position, that part of myself. I understand how it is that you may make some decisions, though they seem right at the time, they may not be the most legal or the best for something that happens 10 years down the road. But had the parcel in, I mean, if we're even saying, is it, and I think it is, I looked up on WakeGov, it is parceled out 2.9 acres versus whatever. But I also know that, yes, if you own it, you can recombine it. I had to do that downtown. Would that have been as big an issue for the town if it had been a 40-acre tract and there was you know, it's sort of like it became a sore. It became the issue from the standpoint that had been parceled out.
So you're saying if it wasn't parceled out at all, but they were using it for multiple use other than farming, what would the issues be?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to, also just want to see whether or not the fact that it was, because it was parceled out, is that more indicative of the use that I want to use this 3 acres for? That I did indeed sort of say, hey, it's part of a farm, but now it's not part of a farm because I parceled it out as a business concern. You know, what was intent? You know, the fact that it's no longer gonna act as a farm. I mean,
But part of it is. But part of it is being used multiple use. Part farming, part paving.
right. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, you had an answer, which is, you know, when did it cease to be, or has it ceased to be farming versus, you know, land use and then business use? Probably can't quote you exactly, but I mean, that made sense. You know, did something that used to be a farm, did it stop being a farm, and how do we regulate that? And does the town have jurisdiction over that? If it is all a farm, then the town has no jurisdiction. If it's a business, non-farm, then the town has some say. And I don't know how far down the street on Perry Curtis Road you have to go that you're out of the ETJ. To your house? Is Nell and Bill in ETJ? Adele?
Another question I'd ask the board, whether that 2.75 acres was carved out or not, do you think this operation on a farm is still a farm?
Yes.
So you can do anything on a farm, on farmland?
I think it's got multiple uses, but it is still a farming. Or this is how I'm seeing it and how I'm interpreting it, is that it's still farm. They're just using a multiple use for the same property, and that's the paving. But they're conducting farming there also.
So
I don't see that property having changed as far as the farm. They've just added the paving.
So pushing that one step further, any farm within the ETJ could do anything it wanted to. It would just be multi-use properties, what you're saying. Once again, within the ETJ, any area or any property that was a farm, and you'd have to look at the definition of what a farm is, you're saying they could do anything on that
Aren't there
property.
stipulations about what can be done?
Yeah,
Or
in the
it's not
stipulations
farming,
in here, they
it's exempt
spell
from
out
everything?
what agriculture is. So then you have to kind of decide, is it all a farm, or is it part of farm, or, and in this case, there's actually a land carved out for a sole purpose.
Yeah, that's what I see, based on what we see here tonight, and based
I'm
on.
sorry, Gilbert, I can't hear you. Can you speak into
I
the
said,
mic?
based on what we see here tonight, and based on the use of this 2.75 acres, it's definitely not, it does not appear to be used as a bona fide farm. The remaining 30-some-odd acres, that's possible that that's being used as a farm. So if we're held to what we see and what appears to be happening on that 2 point, if we focus on just the 2.75, I would, based on what I see, the use has changed over time. So, and I do see some pictures where some tractors may be stored on the other side of the fence, but We all know the nature of a farm. Any property next to a farm, I may have a piece of equipment sitting here or implement there or something like that, but, you
Well,
know,
I do say that from the picture there, you know, how you mow grass and which way the stripes of the mower goes, I mean, that changes with the season, with how somebody decided to cut it one day versus another. So, I know there was some comment made about that. And basically, that's just pea gravel or crush and run, whatever, put down. So it makes it look like it's so much more developed than it really is. Yeah, barns removed or torn down, improvements. Was there really any question about that, whether they violated some building code, building permits? I mean,
Yeah, I think the staff report noted they put signs up without permits and that they did building improvements without permits. Now, once again, if it's a total farm, I don't think you have to do that.
did Wake County go after them? Or, I mean, did any?
I don't know if Wake County,
You can't ask any more questions about that.
yeah, of them.
I'm not asking them, I'm just.
Yeah, I don't know if Wake County knows. Our enforcement officer went out there and saw the signs had been posted, and then comparing photos here, determined that the buildings have been improved and heated and turned into a business operation, basically. Because you have, once again, you have to decide whether or not this is a farming activity or if it's a business. I totally agree, it's multi-purpose right now. Even the testimony said the parking lot was actually used for farm vehicles some of the time, but it's also used for commercial vehicles that are making money actually off the farmland. In other words, they are leaving and making money commercially elsewhere and just returning as a place to park. And then you have to determine whether or not that's a business activity.
Okay. I mean, just thinking out loud, they would not be prohibited from parking on that land if her office was not there. Could you really tell a landowner that you cannot park vehicles?
Well, if you lived in an R20 area, would you want commercial vehicles parked by your house every night?
But if she removes her office, then it basically converts to a farm, does it not? I mean,
Are you saying if she removed the office if she removed the office or removed the vehicles, there's no business there, right?
Basically, I mean, I find it hard to, if farming is going on the whole piece of property, just what kind of, and I guess this too, corporate lawyers would end up, whether or not you don't want to do that because you expose the individual to liabilities and all that stuff.
Yeah, the three exhibits, Exhibit 2 that the town handed out, one of the pages defines all the agricultural activities, which is kind of how we in our own minds determine what a farm is, okay? But then we also have on the 153A-340, 340, we have the 4 questions you use or exhibits you can use to determine whether or not it's a farm.
so what I wanted to talk about was this required findings.
Lord, I'm sorry, I can't hear you again.
The required findings of fact.
What attachment are you?
It's on page 3 of 3. the zoning map amendment petition. Yeah, attachment 13.
Attachment 13, required findings of fact.
So what weight, I mean, how did this weigh in our consideration?
This was part of the petition that was submitted and withdrawn to do a zoning map amendment. In other words, to change the zoning map
Okay.
to allow a business. So that was initially filed, but then withdrawn, thinking that it's actually a farm, so the activity is allowed. And that's what we're ruling on right now, is basically whether this is a bona fide farm. And if it is, then the city doesn't regulate it. And I think the big hang-up point is we have a piece of property that was segregated and set up to be used as a business, which I think we all agree is probably not a farm. In other words, if I bought that property and started doing that in an agricultural area, most people would say, Larry is not running a farm. Now, if I bought 100 acres and the other 98 I'm growing crops, we'd have to decide, am I a farmer or am I a farmer and a businessman?
Yeah, give you that.
Has anyone got their mind made up for the sake of making an argument that you believe this or believe that, and why?
We were told the property was sectioned out to be used for a bank loan instead of using all of the farm as collateral. So they sectioned out a portion of it,
Right, which is
Okay.
a common practice.
which makes sense.
Kathy, would you speak into the
I'm
microphone?
sorry.
We cannot hear you.
I made the comment that they sectioned this out. We were told that it was for the collateral for the loan. That was the main purpose of sectioning this piece of property out. Now, whether we're weighing all these other options into this or not, well, this is the story. My personal opinion, that it's a farm and took on multiple use. That we have to deal with. So you've got commercial use going on farm property.
You said you do have commercial
Use going on
a farm property, which then go back and look at the regulations and what is a farm.
Well, that was part of the farm to start with. It's never been, to me, nothing's changed to it. They upgraded some property, but the farm has not changed. They've added to it, is the way I'm seeing it.
Yeah, they're
Because
using,
farm property, farm equipment is still on that also. It's not just sticks and paving. If there was nothing else there, then yes, you can tell it's been sectioned out strictly for commercial use. But it's been used for both.
so we have to decide whether we agree with the enforcement officer's zoning administration ruling that this is no longer 100% farm.
But it still maintains the tax exemption that tracked. And Mrs. Perry, we were told that she still had
She testified that it was being taxed as farm property, which I don't know if Wake County would agree with. I mean, I'm not a tax expert, and I know there's something about a certain percentage of the property has to be used as farm for it to be so taxed. You seldom do you use 100% of the property to farm.
Right, well, this statute is stating a farm sales tax exemption certificate or a copy of the property tax listing showing the property is eligible for participation in the present use value program.
It says eligible.
Well, a lot of farms still go fallow, so they don't aren't being
Right.
necessarily plowed under every year.
Right.
I think they still get farm status, but, I mean, that's not the question here. But.
Right.
I mean, I think I see both sides. I mean,
When
I
it gets
see-
here, there's always two sides or more.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I see that the use has changed. I see that, they've done what a lot of farmers do. They take the land that they already have and they go into business. I mean, I see that all the time. So, I mean, I get what they're trying to do, and it looks like they tried to do the right thing, you know.
Let me ask you this question. In your mind, when would a farm no longer be a farm? In other words, if I go buy 100 acres of farmland 40 years ago, just outside of Cary, would I still have a 100-acre farm in Cary doing whatever I want to on that property?
Right.
Because I say it's a farm. Even though I'm only farming 80% of it, I can do whatever I want in the other 20%.
Or 80-20, you definitely qualify.
That's a farm. And then the other thing is, if it's a farm, bring me a product of your farm, if you can do that.
Well, they did testify with a commodity report that there is soybeans being grown on part of the land.
Right.
But what's in question is this little 2.75.
Right.
I don't think we're questioning the rest of the land
Right.
is a fully functioned farm.
Right.
But then, once again, I ask, if you have a farmland, can you do anything you want to on small parts of it and still stay underneath the farm umbrella and say, don't touch that 20%, I can do anything I want to?
Well, as it relates to the 2.75, there's no percentage of that acreage that is farm, right?
That's correct.
Well,
Other than there is some farm equipment being parked
yeah, it's
parked
not
there.
cultivated, but
Right.
as the term was used, barnyard. You know, which would be around a farmer's house, stables, barns, all those things, but it's not under cultivation. That's still, it's still part of the farm. I think one thing that, whether it clouds or clarifies, I'm not sure, is the fact that the particular piece that's in question ended up having to be used and leveraged because it had the buildings. It had some value so that it could be mortgaged without affecting homes, I think. Whether that's a stumbling block or basically, you know, it tells us really what's going on with that piece of property. You know, that's something that we all have to decide on. I don't think any of us have any question whatsoever what's happening on the other 37 acres. That's farm, for sure.
I think we all agree with that, and it's been proved.
And I think the only thing the town has issue with is what's happening at the barnyard, the paddock, the parking lot, the business, and how do we handle that? What do we?
Right, they have viewed this that is a commercial operation taking place on a farm. Therefore, it falls under the jurisdiction of the city because it's an ETJ. And then, not to cloud the issue, but when I read this report the first time, I got to thinking about what if that 2.75 was put up as collateral and was being farmed, and that commercial operation was in the center of the property? Would you view it any different? Because you still have the commercial activity going on, but it's in the middle of the farm, and no one may hear or see it, and it may sit there a long period of time running because all the way around the perimeter is a farm. But is that still a commercial activity taking place on farm property?
Yes.
You know, this is clearly taking place in that square. But if that square was put up as collateral and that operation was somewhere else on the property, it would probably function there for years before anybody would say anything.
And the other thing is, if there were no signage, if the sign said,
Gilbert, I'm sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, sorry about that. If there was no signage, if the sign said Dixon Farms, and they did the exact same work that they do today, and there was no signs up, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's probably true. Because it's hard to keep up with what's taking place on every piece of property.
Right.
So basically, you have to decide whether you agree with the zoning administrator that this is in fact a commercial property taking place on a farm, therefore it has to be regulated, or this is a farm and they can do whatever they want to on it because the town can't regulate it. And then you have to couple that with it's within the ETJ, meaning it's future growth. You know, if this were 100 miles out, I don't think we would care. Or the county, it would be their problem, not the city, but it's within the ETJ. And it was brought to their attention, so they're ruling on it. Yeah. Is anybody comfortable enough to make a motion, or still want to discuss more? I think we both understand you pretty much got two options here.
Yeah.
And how does the original statement read from the town? The language, what am I up?
Staff recommendation.
Yes, that's what I want.
What page are you on? So we can all be looking at the same thing.
Page. Let's see,
Page
we're in-
third page.
yes, the third page after that opening page, AP 2019-1,
Recommendation.
2 pages back.
We're on this one.
Yes, sir. Yeah, 2 pages.
Okay. Let's see.
And I think that staff recommendation is pertaining to the 2.75.
Right.
And there are multiple addresses on the property. I mean, that has a specific address versus a home address.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I think looking at the, on the previous page under the staff report, it spells out the signage, the construction office, the parking, trying to validate that they view it as a business, not as an agricultural farm activity.
But the signing has been removed, correct?
Yeah, the sign, as that was testified, the signs were both removed. I think there were 2 signs.
Well, I think the one that was requesting for help, that was removed. I think the Dixon paving still remains. No, that's removed too.
And as I think council stated, we're not trying to punish anybody. We're simply trying to make sure that the current zoning rules are applied as they were written, and just agree with one or the other sides. And then after this, there are other steps that can be taken, but that's not for us to decide. Anyone feel comfortable making a motion or stating their case? I can't make the motion. It really needs to be made by one of you three.
Or
And in the staff report, one page over from where we just at, are three potential motions that they always put in the packet for us. And then on the back of tonight's agenda that I handed out to you, there are some sample motions with findings of fact that you have to decide upon. Go ahead, Tad.
I would almost say that the way it was presented to us, the address on the case deals with 324 Perry Curtis Road. Now, I think, to be honest with you, not to say to let this board off, but that's what's presented, is what's happening at address 324. Carved out, sectioned out, still owned by the same people, but we're still talking about a single address
And an activity that may not be construed to be a farm activity.
on that piece of property.
Right.
And
then-
I think, to be honest with you, until something else were done, which may wind right back up here, I think what's happening on the 40 acres total, we have to decide on what was brought to us at the address 324.
Right. I'm with you on that. I think we have to, like Ted said, we focus on the 2.75. And if you look at just the 2.75, I'm with that.
And for a motion, you could refer to these four items listed under here under grants of power on what has to construe or what proof can be used to prove to you it's a farming activity.
Right.
Second. Okay. Yeah. Basically, we need to decide and make a motion. And in that motion, you should reference some facts. I think, Tad, you kind of started off with that we're specifically dealing with 234, the 2.75 acres and the operation taking place on that piece of property.
Let me see if I can help. I don't know what you're gonna do, but if you have a strong feeling one way or the other, or you have something in your mind, this is what I want to do, you need to make a motion that says we want to either affirm the decision of the zoning administrator, or we want to overrule the decision of the zoning administrator. And this is why. You have to have at least some findings of fact to base upon your decision. So first, decide, is it a farm? If it's not a farm, is this a non-farming operation? A non-farming operation, this is why we believe it's, one, not a farm, or it is a farm. I'm not trying to guide you. I'm just saying you have that responsibility, and it is a responsibility to decide something, to either say we're going to affirm the decision of the planning administrator, or we're going to overrule the planning administrator, zoning administrator.
I make the motion that we affirm, as the Board of Adjustment, uphold the notice of violation because property is subject to the 2.75. It is not a bona fide farm.
Okay, and why do you think that it's not the bona fide farm?
Due
That's
to
gonna-
the
you're gonna have to
commercial,
have that.
due to the commercial business that is going on, this particular piece of property.
And possibly the failure to demonstrate one of these 4 topics, which is on that Part 3 zoning handout. It's highlighted. Okay. Or just stick with the, you think it's a commercial property, or commercial operation.
I feel that it is commercial operation on this 2.75 property.
Okay? So we have a motion to affirm the land use administrator's ruling that this is a commercial operation on the 2.75 acres.
Yes.
Do I have any?
Hold on.
Go ahead.
One more thing. If you want to be clear, I think you need to.
Roger, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm sitting. I think you need to say what is it, the commercial activity that's going on? Just for the purposes of the record and the findings of fact.
Okay, the commercial activity is Dixon paving that is going on this particular piece of property that is sectioned out. I do not see the 2.75 as a bona fide farm.
Okay. All right.
That's good. Any discussion? We're ready to vote. All those in favor of reaffirming the land use administrator's decision?
I'm sorry, we need a second.
Okay, sorry. I need a second to the motion.
Second.
I have a second. Now we can vote on the motion. All those in favor that you're going to affirm the land use administrator's ruling that this, in fact, is a commercial operation, non-farm activity at the 2.75 acre tract?
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, 4 out of 4. So we reaffirm the decision, and the property must be brought into compliance as in the staff recommendations. Under old business on the agenda, real quick, do we have any staff report on the activity at Lee Street, Meade? Can you update us?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I can update you. The town planning staff is working with administration and public works to currently look at the options on how to bring the property in compliance in relation to the applicable court order. We're examining several different options in how to proceed with executing that court order. We plan on providing those details to the Board of Commissioners, I believe either next month, either next month or the following month, once the determination has been made on which course of action would be most applicable.
Do you have an expected timeline?
Given the nature of the situation, the likeliness of the property being brought in compliance would be sometime in the first quarter of 2020.
2020? Okay. And then any updates on the vegetation plantings that was supposed to take place at Wedgwood?
We do not have an update on that at this time.
Okay. Can we expect something from you in the next 60 days, 90 days?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And just notify us by email, is that possible?
Absolutely.
Great. And Meade, one recommendation on the packet, if you could put page numbers, really makes it much easier for us when we're trying to find a section. All right. Anything else? If not, meeting closed.